Hello friends, I'm Ramon and this is the channel where everything is completely different. Have you ever wondered what life was like at home for famous dictators? Did they have children? Were they henpecked? Were they married? And if so, how did their significant others view their actions and what were they like? Let's take a closer look at them. Bashar al-Assad assumed the presidency in 2000 after his father, Hafez al-Assad, who had ruled the country with an iron fist since 1971. His son continues in the same established trend. Although their rule brought Syria a period of certain economic development, support for education, and strengthening of the military, it is by no means a typical democratic republic as we know it, for example, from Europe. Political opposition in this country is eliminated by brutal methods. Political prisoners are subjected to truly harsh torture, not to mention the ongoing civil war that has been raging here for over 12 years. I dare say that in modern history, there is no conflict more confusing than this one. Here, Assad's government, the rebels, Kurdish militias, and the Islamic State are all fighting against each other. These parties are further supported by various foreign countries, including Turkey, Russia, Iran, the USA, and even Israel. And honestly, I wouldn't be too surprised if some of the sides were also being supported by aliens from planet ZX-256 or dwarves from Elfi. However, Assad is determined to remain at the head of all of Syria at any cost, and he is not afraid to use any means necessary. And that's exactly why we can confidently call him a dictator. But now, let's talk about his wife. Asma Assad was born to Syrian parents on August 11, 1975 in London as Asma Fawaz Akras. After completing highly prestigious studies at King's College and Harvard, she worked in the financial sector for Deutsche Bank or JP Morgan, for example in Paris or New York. In 2000, while on vacation in Damascus, she met Bashar. They managed to get married before the end of that same year, by which time Bashar was already the president of Syria. Many people welcomed this marriage. A woman raised in the West could bring a breath of fresh air to a country bound in chains. However, everything turned out completely differently. Despite her husband's imperfections, she continues to stand firmly by his side in Damascus with all three of their children. After the outbreak of the civil war, she was even offered asylum, but she firmly refused. In 2018, she was diagnosed with cancer, but with the support of her husband and local doctors, she managed to recover. Today, she is dedicated to supporting war veterans, but above all, to raising awareness about cancer prevention, and she often visits oncology centers. Fidel Castro's first wife was Mirta Diaz-Balart. She was born on September 30, 1928, into the family of prominent Cuban politician Rafael José Diaz-Balart and America Gutierrez. She studied philosophy at the University of Havana, where she met Fidel. They got married in 1948, but 7 years later they divorced. They had only one son together, Fidel Ángel Castro Diaz-Balart. He resembled his father so much that no one called him anything but Fidelito, meaning little Fidel or young Fidel. After the divorce and a very tough custody battle with Mirta, custody was granted to Big Fidel. Fidelito was very intelligent, even studying nuclear physics, but at the same time he suffered from deep depression, which ultimately led him to commit suicide. After the divorce, Mirta alternated between living in Spain and Cuba, and now, at 95 years old, she is spending her final years in Cuba. Fidel's second wife was Dalia Soto del Valle. She was born into a wealthy family, later became a teacher, and among other things, participated in the government campaign to promote literacy. She met Fidel when she was 17 at one of his speeches in Villa Clara in 1961, which was 2 years after the revolution, when Fidel was already in power. Between 1962 and 1974, they had 5 sons together. Each of their names began with the letter A. 3 of them bore a variation of the name Alexander, which was Fidel's nickname during his guerrilla days, after Alexander the Great. Okay, they were Alexis, Alex, and Alejandro. The remaining 2 were Antonio and Angelito. They didn't get married until 1980, and although it's hard to believe, Dalia first appeared in public only in the year 2000. Until then, she lived in secrecy and was essentially just a secret childbearing machine. Fidel died in 2016, and Dalia most likely is still alive today. She was born under the name Luan Shomeng in March 1914 in Chuchangdu into the family of a poor merchant. After her parents' divorce, she moved with her mother and sister to her grandfather's house, where she took on a new name, certainly not her last, Li Qingjin, meaning Azure Cloudlet Li. Her dream was to become a famous actress, so from 1929 she began attending an acting school in Chang'an, where she started an affair with the school's director and was thus able to study for free. In the following years, she changed lovers and places of residence as often as she changed her socks. Thanks to them, she occasionally got to perform in the theater or landed a tiny role in a film. She eventually married one of them and took on yet another new name, Lan Ping, which means blue apple. However, the marriage did not last long, as she soon found herself another lover. During the war against Japan, she collaborated with the then ruling Kuomintang party on the production of propaganda films aimed against both the Japanese and the communists. Those same communists with whom she would later ally herself and even marry one mega-communist. But we'll get to that later. Well, actually, we've already gotten to it now. In 1939, she suddenly became a communist. She joined the party and began working at the art academy in Yan'an. It was here that she met her fateful man, the great helmsman Mao Zedong. Mao was captivated by the young comrade and gave her a new name, Jiang Qing, that is, Green River. They got married that same year, and a year later their daughter Lina was born. After the end of World War II, a civil war broke out in China, which the communists won after 3 years, forcing the supporters of the Kuomintang to flee to the island of Taiwan, where they remain a thorn in the side of mainland China to this day. Jiang Qing obtained the position of head of the film propaganda department, effectively becoming a kind of Goebbels in a skirt. In 1966, the infamous Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution began, in which Jiang Qing played a rather crucial role. She delivered militant and radical speeches, initiated protests by young and fanatical people against intellectuals and the educated. Schools were closed, teachers were murdered or sent to re-education camps. In short, anything that was not in the spirit of Mao Zedong was destroyed, including historical monuments, monasteries, and so on. Tianqi also used this as an opportunity to settle her own personal scores from the past. She took revenge on former acting colleagues, lovers, and officials, sending them into exile or straight to the gallows. In short, a real sweetheart. But everyone gets their comeuppance eventually. In 1976, Mao died, and a power struggle broke out between the moderate wing of the Communist Party and the radical group gathered around Tianqi. In the end, she lost this war, and in November 1980, she was put on trial and sentenced to death. After 3 years, her sentence was commuted to life imprisonment, and a year later, she was released. On May 14, 1991, she committed suicide by hanging. After World War II, Romania also became part of the Eastern Bloc and a satellite of the Soviet Union. The Communists seized power here in 1948, and Nicolae Ceauşescu gradually climbed the ranks of the Romanian Communist Party. After the death of its General Secretary and President Gheorghiu Dej in 1965, Nicolae took his place and thus became the most powerful man in the country. And his wife Elena could not have been happier. Elena Ceauşescu was born in the small town of Petresti as Lenuca Petrescu in 1916 into a poor peasant family. After elementary school, some sources say she didn't even finish elementary school, she moved to Bucharest, where she started working as an assistant in a chemical laboratory and later got a job in a textile factory. There, she first encountered communist ideas, and during the 1930s, she even joined the Communist Party. It was there that her attention was caught by a young, charismatic activist named Nicolae, whom she basically pursued until she won him over. However, their romance was soon interrupted by the outbreak of World War II. After the war ended, they were happily reunited and after a few months got married. However, for this to happen, Elena needed to make herself appear younger. In reality, she was 2 years older than her future husband. Romanian society at the time would probably have overlooked this issue, but she thought differently, so she had to resort to a little trick. She changed her year of birth from 1916 to 1919, and just like that, the problem was solved. As already mentioned, in 1965, Nicolae became the absolute ruler of the Balkan country, and Elena definitely did not want to remain just the wife of the General Secretary. From a secretary at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, she suddenly became part of the top leadership of the Communist Party, the first deputy prime minister. She also became the head of the Academy of Sciences, helped by her doctorate in chemistry and professional publications released under her name. But here comes another one of her little tricks. She simply bought that doctorate. And as for those publications, well, she hired scientists to write the professional papers for her. She wasn't smart, nor was she any kind of beauty, and she was well aware of it. Because of her larger nose, photographers and cameramen were never allowed to shoot her in profile, and even then, her photos were retouched and colorized afterwards. She loved luxury and spent exorbitant amounts on expensive clothes, jewelry, shoes, furs, and of course, gourmet food. But this extravagant behavior did little to help an already very poor and destitute country. She and Nicolae had 3 children in total, 2 sons and a daughter. Elena was obsessed with controlling her children and constantly interfered in their private lives, choosing their partners or, on the contrary, breaking up their relationships. She even had them watched by the Romanian secret police, the Securitate. Winter of 1989 arrived, and a wave of anti-communist revolutions swept through Eastern Europe. Romania was no exception. On December 16th, an uprising broke out in Timișoara, which gradually spread throughout Romania. Ceausescu still tried to suppress the demonstrations by deploying the army, but it was in vain. Even so, the revolution in Romania was by no means as peaceful as it was in our country. Over 100 people paid with their lives for their country's freedom. By December 23rd, the situation in Bucharest had become so serious that the Ceausescus had to flee by helicopter to a military base in the city of Târgoviște. But there they were detained, sentenced by a people's court, and on December 25th, both were executed by shooting. What a Christmas present! We have very little information about Ceauşescu. We know that she was born sometime between 1985 and 1989. Her mother is a doctor and her father is a professor. Allegedly, she graduated from Gyeongsong Second High School in Pyongyang and went on to study singing in China. She is said to have later earned a doctorate in natural sciences from Kim Il-sung University. She sang in the Unhasu Orchestra, and now the North Korean regime is trying to erase her singing past by confiscating CDs of her performances. Ceauşescu and Kim Jong-un reportedly got married as early as 2009, and half a year before that, the future First Lady of North Korea had to undergo 6 months of training for the role of First Lady at Kim Il-sung University. Amazing what you can study at university, isn't it? She reportedly has 3 children with the North Korean leader, 1 son, 1 daughter, and 1 child whose gender is unknown. And that's about all we know. Maybe in the future we'll learn a bit more about this lady. Here, I would like to end the first part of our journey through the palaces and bedrooms of dictators, and especially their sometimes far too expensive better halves. I sincerely hope you enjoyed my video. If you did, please share, like, subscribe, hit the bell, you know the drill. See you next time for the continuation, and remember, everything is completely different than it seems.